What's going on, gamers? So we have an article here that I've been wanting to do for 2 days, but I've been doing other stuff instead, and I never got a chance to get to it. But this is something to talk about because it means a lot more than what people think. And we're talking about Microsoft reportedly still planning to bring Black Ops 7 to Switch 2 despite no official announcement. Well, the reason why that didn't happen yet is because dev kits, they weren't giving any of that out. They wanted no leaks, nobody didn't know nothing. You know how they are. They're like that. But we're gonna get into more than that. It's them keeping that 10-year contract agreement, like they said they're gonna do with them. They signed a 10-year contract, so they're honoring that. And then Sony saying that Microsoft's going to release a worse version. That never ended up happening, so that ended up backfiring. So yeah, we have a lot to talk about here. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into this. So one of the things I want to talk about, the reason why this is also important is because one, Microsoft Publishing, Nintendo third-party power draw, and the industry growing too, because all third-party publishers are now coming over there to make more money, to profit, and to be able to fund more IPs or fund current IPs or future IPs. You see what I mean? All developers and publishers get more profit, and it boosts the whole health of the gaming industry. The console industry gets more healthy, and the gaming market in general is not as stagnant. It's now has fresh life and a whole bunch of new sales coming in and consistent hardware moving. You know what I mean? We need this, and then the Japanese market is more alive too. We know how important that is when it comes to gaming development. So with a game like this coming over here, you'll be able to tap into more markets. COD would now have a portable version, and it'll have a different community. Now, one thing that I want to shoot down right away, because ponies are insecure and a lot of other people are just being goofy because they can't understand simple concepts, is that this game is still also going to be on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Let's get right to it and talk about this comment because we have a lot to talk about here, like I said. So Charlie Intel had a report Microsoft and Nintendo reportedly working together, as we just saw right there. This guy right here. It's a perfect example. 30 FPS Call of Duty at 60 hertz. The Switch can't handle Call of Duty. Now, people like this say stuff, but they don't know what they're talking about. If you were talking about the original, yes, but this had Switch 2, which, by the way, Koei Tecmo just made very clear that it in raw compute stats, that and the Series S are not too far from each other. But with DLSS, the Switch gets an advantage, of course. Yeah, it's newer technology. It has an NVIDIA GPU. That doesn't surprise me. It has more RAM. Just doesn't have a better CPU. But other than that, with games like this is not a CPU demanding game. COD has never been a CPU demanding game. It's easy to run. If they're going to run this at 60 frames per second on PlayStation 4 base, which the Switch in handheld mode can beat with DLSS, Switch dock, it smokes the PlayStation 4. Anybody telling you that, they don't know what they're talking about. Why are they saying dumb stuff like that? It's going to be running on the Xbox One, which is weaker than the PlayStation 4. Let's help y'all out here. Koei Tecmo. Remember, Nintendo's about to get some of Sony's market share from COD. They don't like that. They're going to get more attention. See, this is what this is about. Yeah, it goes back to Sony in a lot of ways. All right, Koei Tecmo, Nintendo Switch 2, Series S. I'm gonna pull up what they said. Nintendo Switch 2, closer to Xbox Series S than PlayStation 4 in terms of raw computing power, Koei Tecmo says. They were doing this organically to see what it can scale. There's no DLSS here, so when they use that, it'll be able to run even better. That's what people didn't understand. It was just raw compute power. So if you add in DLSS, it gets even more of a boost. And this is just the beginning. They're going to optimize to get used to it more. NVIDIA technology is always easy to optimize for. But this is just to give an example. Like, these people don't know what they're talking about. Digital Foundry started fixing what they said. They realized that that wasn't right. And I'm glad they came to fix that. So now that we have that stupid stuff out of the way, saying dumb stuff like this, 30 frames per second at 60, it's like, dude, no. What are you talking about? That's like saying the Series S is going to do that. But it does surprise me because these PlayStation fanboys have done this with the Series S. They try to find some angle, but they're obviously salty that Sony is losing to Nintendo and they just took all their records. If y'all didn't know, they sold 3.5 million in 4 days. and that's sold out, not shipped. They shipped more after that because people were saying their stock's coming in. So those counted sales too, but they just didn't update that. They just count what's sold on an initial 4 days. So it could be at 4.5 to 5 million right now shipped. Not joking. Oh yeah, success. You got a whole entire base, a whole entire handheld community that only does handheld. The handheld community is huge. People know how competitive this market's getting now. That Call of Duty can be introduced to because there's people that like Call of Duty Mobile. The Switch 2 is a huge tablet. I mean, this thing is amazing in handheld mode. I love it. So you got mouse controls too. There's so many different ways to look at it. Gyro controls. You can engage in Call of Duty in a different dimension. Microsoft sees that. They're going to increase their publishing there. They're going to work together. This is just the beginning for a lot of things. I'm telling people that this type of stuff is only going to bother people in the PlayStation world because Sony is no longer getting Call of Duty domination by themselves. They're coming in. Imagine you got a pie. Sony has a percentage, Microsoft has a percentage, PC has a percentage. Now Nintendo's coming in to cut a piece into that. Microsoft doesn't care. That's good for them because now they're going to be getting more sales and more publishing. And Nintendo increases their base because now they have Call of Duty that's going to benefit them more. Both are benefiting. The only people that will be salty are PlayStation fanboys over there in the corner with their ponytails getting mad because Call of Duty is coming to Switch 2 and they're going to try to downplay it and try to talk about some specs and say something stupid when it's like, you do realize, right? This is where I like to prove them wrong, y'all, because I seriously just, when people say dumb stuff, I'm like, why are we doing this? Right? Watch this. It's coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So you're talking about two consoles that only our console are way weaker than the Switch 2 right now. It's like if you read that, why would you even post that? Because stats wise, it has over like 3,000 something T flops. PlayStation 4 at its best is 1.8. And we know T flops, like he said, it's flopflation, but there is something to get there. You know what I mean? The CUDA cores are way higher. The technology is way newer. The RAM is way behind. The CPU is way behind compared to the Switch 2. The GPU is way behind. You know what I mean? It's like, what are we talking about? But they're able to run on the PS4 and Xbox One. So you don't think the Switch version is going to run at 60 frames per second? That's stupid to think that it's not. It doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, let's scroll down a little bit. Black Ops 7, 360p, 30 frames per second. So handheld console wars begins. Interesting. Well, yeah. Still not. Does it have enough storage? Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting to see how the storage is. Can't wait to drop nukes at 12 FPS on the go. Well, now remember they said all this, y'all. When the game comes out, we're going to see how well Microsoft's team and at Activision over them optimize and get it up and running on here. Watch how they get their minds blown. Watch, y'all. This is going to be funny. Remember this, ponies. Remember this. Xbox players, remember this. COD players, remember this. Everybody remember this video. When it drops on this console and it's running 60 frames per second and there's no problem. And they're sitting over there smoking people on PlayStation with gyro controls and mouse controls playing like they're playing on a PC. And they're just going to be like, what? You're playing on Switch? What? What happened, bro? You know what I mean? You see what I mean? Yeah, they don't think like that. They're just dumb. Like, so yeah, let me know what y'all think. This isn't a long video, but this is basically talk about the partnership with Microsoft and Nintendo. Call of Duty being everyone on there, no problem. Showing you that it's on these consoles, how fanboys continue to say stupid stuff, and you know me, I put them on blast. And how Sony is uncomfortable because now their biggest market pie share is being ate into by Nintendo. They're coming in, they're cut in that piece of that pie, and they're eating it. You can't have that anymore. It's not just yours, it's mine now. Microsoft likes that too because it's still going at Sony and taking less power. You know what I mean? They have less power. Nintendo's getting more power. Now it's selling on there. Either way, they're still getting the publishing increase. So we see how this strategy works coming full circle. Like I said, the only people that have problems. Ponies, sit down. Get used to it. Okay? And I wouldn't be surprised when Halo and Gears comes to Switch, and y'all are sitting over here on Twitter all day, and Nintendo users and Xbox users and PC users are bodying y'all. 'Cause Nintendo users are good at video games. Their games are not easy. Everybody knows that. They compete. Smash would dominate the competitive scene. Splatoon is very competitive. It's always been competitive on that console, just maybe in a different way, cartoony, but it doesn't make it less competitive. The other people that are the least competitive are people like JTech TV shooting the wall with his Doom gameplay. You know what I mean? Raging out, having people not wanting to buy PlayStation games on PC. It's like, good lord, don't you know that Sony um, just wants to put those on there because they want them to sell? You're saying you don't want Sony to be successful at something Sony wants to do? Yeah, be more slow. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.